humans had ever faced. Fear rippled through the Zerithian fleet. Their formations broke. Communication lines jammed. Their pilots, trained for decades, had never encountered an enemy so unpredictable, so fast, so deadly. Panic spread like a virus, infecting even the most disciplined crews. In moments, the mighty fleet of thousands was in chaos, a shattered river of metal drifting helplessly through space. On the bridge of the Aegis, Elena felt a strange mixture of triumph and sorrow. She did not celebrate. She had witnessed the destruction of countless lives, and even in victory there was weight. She turned to her crew. "Remember this," she said softly. "We fight to survive. We fight to protect. We fight because we must, but we do not take pride in their suffering. Humanity is stronger than that. Humanity is merciful when it can afford to be." Across Earth, people watched live feeds of the unfolding battle. They saw the tiny ships of humans striking impossibly against the vast alien armada. For the first time, the galaxy noticed Earth. Children gasped in classrooms. Scientists wept quietly at the brilliance of human strategy. Leaders across nations held their breath, realizing that their planet, long dismissed as insignificant, was capable of feats no one had believed possible. And yet, even in this moment of power, there was humility. Humanity had survived because of courage, intelligence, and unity. They had struck down the galaxy's greatest fleet, not with arrogance, but with careful planning, patience, and a refusal to surrender. They had shown the universe that even the smallest, underestimated species could rise to greatness when necessity demanded it. Elena looked out at the stars, her eyes reflecting the fires of distant explosions. The Zerithians had thought they would conquer effortlessly. They had not counted on the human spirit, on humanity's unbreakable will. And now, the galaxy would never forget. In the silence that followed, a new truth echoed through space. Earth was no longer a passive observer. Earth had awakened, and the galaxy would soon learn that underestimating humanity was a mistake that could never be forgiven. The void of space was alive with fire. The Zerithian fleet, once perfect and orderly, now spiraled into chaos. Their massive ships, forged over centuries, had never faced an enemy like Earth. The humans were small, fragile, and yet somehow unstoppable. Every shot fired by the Aegis and its allied ships found its target, shattering hulls and tearing energy cores apart. Captain Elena Morales stood on the bridge, her eyes sharp, her mind focused. Around her, the crew worked with precision, each movement rehearsed countless times. The hum of the ship was steady, the vibrations of the engines vibrating through her body like a heartbeat. This was more than war. This was humanity proving itself to the galaxy for the first time. "Captain," Lieutenant Rao called out, voice tight with tension. "The lead cruiser is breaking apart. They're trying to regroup." Elena nodded. "Then we make sure they cannot." Her fingers danced over the controls. Targeting systems locked onto the next wave of Zerithian ships. Quantum destabilizers hummed with power, ready to release their destructive energy. For the first time, the Zerithians felt real fear. Admiral Vrax's many eyes widened in disbelief as one of their massive battleships exploded in a flash of blue-white fire. Signals of panic rippled through their fleet. Thousands of trained pilots expecting an easy victory now scrambled to survive. Their centuries of planning, their pride, their invincible fleet, all unraveling in moments. "Fire," Elena commanded. The energy beams streaked across space like lightning. Ships disintegrated, leaving trails of molten metal and sparks floating in the endless dark. Explosions rippled outward, shaking the remaining Zerithian vessels. The humans moved like a single organism, coordinated, fast, and precise. Every strike hit the enemy's weak points. Every movement was a dance of strategy learned over decades of study. On the Zerithian flagship, chaos reigned. Officers shouted over alarms that blared in every direction. Systems failed one by one. The prideful warriors of Zareth had never faced a race like humans. "Impossible!" shouted Vrax. "This cannot be. They are weak, insignificant." But Even as he spoke, his flagship shuddered. The hull cracked, warning lights flickered, and fires erupted inside the ship. His fleet, the culmination of centuries, was crumbling before his eyes. Below, on Earth, millions watched live transmissions. Children clutched each other in classrooms. Scientists and engineers stared in disbelief. No one had ever imagined that humanity's fragile fleet could fight with such speed, such precision, such brilliance. The quiet, underestimated planet that everyone dismissed had awakened, and its people were rewriting the rules of the galaxy. Elena's voice cut through the tension on the Aegis. Focus. Stay calm. Remember why we fight. Every crew member felt the weight of her words. They had trained for this, yes, but nothing could fully prepare them for facing an armada that had dominated the stars for centuries. And yet, they trusted their captain. They trusted each other. They trusted humanity itself. The Zerithian fleet tried to adapt. Their largest ships fired massive energy cannons, lasers cutting through space with terrifying intensity. Explosions rocked the human ships, sending shudders through their hulls. Some smaller human craft were destroyed and alarms blared across the bridge. But Elena's strategy held. Humans were unpredictable. They were fast. They were clever. Every move the Zerithians made was anticipated, every maneuver countered. A moment of silence fell between the chaos, brief but profound. Elena looked out at the stars, at the burning wreckage of enemy ships, and felt a surge of emotion. Fear, yes, but also hope, pride, and a deep, quiet sadness. This battle was a test of humanity's spirit, and they were passing it, brilliantly, but at a cost. Captain, Lieutenant Rao said softly, almost unable to speak. They're regrouping. Another wave is coming. Elena's jaw tightened. Then we show them the cost of underestimating humanity. She turned to the tactical screen, her eyes scanning, calculating. Target the command ship. Hit it with everything we have. Disable their leadership. If we break them, we end this faster. The Aegis and its allied human ships fired in unison. Beams of energy, perfectly aimed, struck the command vessel in multiple points. Explosions ripped through its hull. The once mighty flagship shook violently. Its systems failed one after another, and fires spread across its decks. Admiral Vrax's shouts were drowned in alarms and chaos. For the first time, a true silence fell over the Zerithian fleet. Their leaders had failed them. Their centuries of preparation were meaningless. In moments, the galaxy's most feared fleet had been shattered by a single underestimated species from a small blue planet. Elena watched as the remnants of the Zerithian armada drifted, broken and burning. The human ships moved through the wreckage, careful not to waste energy or risk unnecessary losses. Humanity had fought with intelligence, courage, and restraint. They had proven that even the smallest species could challenge the mightiest, and, in that moment, the galaxy began to take notice. Across countless worlds, races that had once ignored Earth began to whisper in fear and awe. Humans had awakened. Humans had struck. And the universe would never forget the day the Zerithian fleet fell. Elena turned to her crew, voice soft but firm. We've won this battle, she said. But the war for respect, for recognition, for our place in the galaxy has just begun. Remember why we fight. Remember who we are. Humanity will endure. Above, the stars reflected the fires of destroyed ships, a galaxy-changing moment recorded in the light of millions of distant suns. And for the first time, humans understood their own power, their own courage, and the truth that even the smallest seed could grow into the mightiest force. The fires of destruction drifted silently through the void. What had once been a proud Zerithian fleet, feared across countless star systems, was now a scattering of broken ships, drifting like forgotten relics in the cold darkness of space. The galaxy watched in stunned silence, unable to comprehend the speed and precision of humanity's strike. Across distant star systems, alien races who had long dismissed Earth now whispered in disbelief. Holographic screens flickered in command centers showing streams of live data. The Zerithians, a race that had spent centuries perfecting war, had fallen in minutes. Entire fleets, meticulously built over generations, were obliterated. Their proud warships were now burning debris, their command structures shattered. And the humans? A tiny species from a blue planet had done the impossible. In the Sol system, the human fleet floated among the wreckage. Captain Elena Morales stood on the bridge of the Aegis, her expression unreadable. Around her, her crew worked in quiet efficiency, surveying the remains of the enemy. There was no celebration, only a somber understanding of what had just occurred. Thousands of lives had been lost, enemies and allies alike. Victory had come, at a cost, but it had been necessary. Humanity had shown the galaxy their strength, and now, the galaxy could not ignore them. Lieutenant Rao leaned over the tactical console, eyes wide. "Captain, the galaxy is watching. Every major system has sensors on us. They can see everything we've done." Elena nodded. "Let them watch. Let them see that Earth does not bend, that humans will fight, and when cornered, we will rise." Her voice was calm, but inside she felt the weight of responsibility. Humanity had changed the course of history today. They had hesitation. Zerithians took pride in their fleet, believing it to be the perfect instrument of conquest. They whispered among themselves that no other species could ever challenge them. That is, until they noticed Earth. Earth was small. It was slow. Its humans were noisy, emotional, and primitive by galactic standards. Zerithian scouts observed them, chuckled at their simplicity, and dismissed them as harmless insects living on a blue marble. They did not understand humanity. They did not care to. The Zerithians were confident that their centuries of preparation would make Earth an easy victory. One flag waved in their minds. The galaxy would soon witness Zerithian greatness. Yet, while the Zerithians had been building their empire, humans had been quietly learning. They had been observing alien technology, studying it, and adapting it in ways that no other race dared to imagine. Across hidden laboratories, deep underground bases, and orbiting stations, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly. They experimented with energy manipulation, faster-than-light propulsion, and weapons that bent the rules of physics. The humans of Earth were not strong in numbers, not like the Zerithians. Their ships were smaller, fewer, and seemingly fragile. But humanity had a secret they kept close to their hearts, a weapon that could change everything. It was not a weapon of brute force alone. It was a weapon of precision, intelligence, and speed. It was a weapon born of necessity, of hope, and of survival. On a quiet morning, far above Earth, the Zerithian fleet entered the outer orbit of the Sol system. Thousands of ships moved in perfect formation, like a river of steel flowing through space. They shone in the light of the sun, massive shadows stretching across the planets below. The sheer size of the fleet made even seasoned observers from other civilizations gasp. Admiral Vrax, the Zerithian leader, stood on the bridge of his flagship, towering above his officers. His many eyes scanned the tiny blue planet below, a smirk curling on his ridged lips. "Prepare the signals," he commanded, voice calm but full of arrogance. "Earth will kneel. We will crush them. Let the galaxy watch how quickly a primitive species falls." No one in his fleet doubted him. Every soldier, every pilot, every weapon was ready. They had trained for this moment for decades, perhaps centuries. And yet they had overlooked something crucial. They had never truly understood humans. Captain Elena Morales of Earth had felt the first tremors of the approaching storm hours ago. She stood on the bridge of the Aegis, the newest and most advanced human warship, staring at the stars as they seemed to darken under the weight of the approaching Zerithian fleet. Her hands rested lightly on the control panel, but her mind was racing. She felt both fear and determination, two emotions that humans could harness like few others. "Captain," her first officer said, breaking the silence, "they are more ships than we've ever seen in history. Are we ready?" Elena turned slowly, looking at the young crew members around her. Some were nervous, gripping their consoles as if holding on for safety. Some were trying to hide their fear with confident faces, but Elena knew every quiver of doubt in their hearts. She smiled gently, a mixture of warmth and steely resolve. "Ready?" she asked softly, almost to herself. Then louder, "We've waited for this. The galaxy thinks we are weak, small, and foolish. They think we cannot fight. They are wrong. Prepare the fleet. Humanity does not cower. Humanity does not beg. Humanity survives, and we fight." Her words echoed through the ship, and she saw the change immediately. The nervousness faded into determination. Fear turned into focus. Humans, she knew, could do the impossible when hope burned in their hearts. Meanwhile, across Earth, military bases and secret stations buzzed with activity. Satellites shifted their orbits, firing sequences were run, and every hidden weapon system was activated. Scientists in labs double-checked calculations, engineers fine-tuned power cores, and every human involved knew the stakes. The galaxy did not know what was coming. Humans did not shout their power. They waited, like a coiled spring ready to release. In the Zerithians' confidence there was arrogance. They had never feared Earth. They had never imagined that this small planet, with its tiny primitive species, could pose any threat. They could not see the long hours humans had spent, learning, adapting, and preparing for a day just like this. They could not feel the resilience, the stubbornness, the unyielding spirit of humans. Above Earth, Elena's eyes narrowed as the first ships entered the outer orbital belt. A soft hum ran through the bridge as the Aegis powered up its primary systems. "This is it," she whispered. "The galaxy will remember today. Not for them, but for us." And deep in the void, the Zerithian fleet moved closer, unaware that their centuries of pride and preparation were about to meet a force they had never imagined. The storm was coming, but this time, Earth would not bend. Humanity had waited, had learned, and had grown. In the darkness of space, the smallest planet held the power to change the course of the galaxy. The vastness of space stretched endlessly before Captain Elena Morales. Stars twinkled faintly, dwarfed by the looming shadow of the Zerithian fleet. Hundreds of massive ships moved like predators, their hulls glinting in the distant light of the sun. Each ship seemed impossibly large, each weapon a promise of destruction. On Earth, millions held their breath, unaware of what was about to unfold in the dark void above them. Elena's hands rested lightly on the bridge console of the Aegis, her eyes scanning the approaching enemy. She could feel the tension in the air, thick and heavy like a storm about to break. Her crew moved silently, each one focused, each one trusting in their captain's calm. They were ready. They had trained for this moment in simulations, in drills, in endless nights filled with calculations and strategy. Yet nothing could prepare them for the reality of facing the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. "Captain," Lieutenant Rao said, his voice tight with nervous energy. "They are close enough to begin their attack in minutes. Do we have the authorization to fire?" Elena turned to him, her expression firm. "Not yet. Wait for my signal. They expect fear. They expect hesitation. We give them neither. Humanity does not panic. Humanity strikes when the moment is right." Across the globe, Earth's secret networks had activated. Satellites aligned, defense systems hummed, and energy beams charged silently in hidden bunkers. For decades, humans had studied alien technology, piecing together the mysteries of energy manipulation, faster-than-light travel, and quantum destabilizers. These weapons were not meant for brute force alone. They were meant to strike with perfect precision, tearing apart even the largest and most fortified ships in seconds. Meanwhile, the Zerithians had no idea what awaited them. Their scanners detected activity on Earth, but the readings were unclear, inconsistent. They interpreted it as minor defenses, primitive tactics that would crumble against their overwhelming might. Admiral Vrack stood on the bridge of the flagship, his many eyes fixed on the tiny blue planet below. "Prepare to annihilate them," he commanded. "Do not show mercy. Let every system witness our strength. In minutes, Earth will be a memory and the galaxy will know our power." Elena took a deep breath. She had watched the stars for years, studying the movements of alien fleets, learning their tactics, their weaknesses. She had studied the patterns of war in a galaxy that had forgotten the smallest species. Humans had always adapted. Humans had always survived. And now, the culmination of centuries of learning, of preparation, was at hand. "Engage quantum destabilizers," she ordered. Her voice was calm, steady, but it carried a weight that made her crew feel the gravity of the moment. "Target the lead ship. Precision, timing, humanity depends on it." The hum of the Aegis's engines deepened as energy surged through its systems. Lights flashed across the bridge as the quantum destabilizers charged, a silent pulse of power that could unravel metal and energy alike. Elena watched the instruments, her heart steady. The first strike had to be perfect. One miscalculation could cost them everything. In the silent darkness of space, the first beam fired. A concentrated stream of energy, blue and glowing, streaked toward the Zerithian flagship. For a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, in an instant, the beam struck. The massive ship shuddered violently, its hull cracked, metal peeling away, explosions erupting from the core. In seconds, centuries of preparation, pride, and power were reduced to drifting fragments of fire and smoke. The rest of the Zerithian fleet reacted, firing their weapons in a coordinated attack. Missiles streaked through space, energy cannons flared, and alarms blared across the Aegis. But Elena's crew was ready. Human ships moved with precision, dodging, countering, and striking back. Each quantum destabilizer shot found its mark. Each strike tore apart ships larger than anything. Realizing the truth. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were resourceful. Humans had a unity and resolve that no weapon or fleet could fully measure. Stories of the battle were transmitted across the stars, growing in scale and legend with each retelling. Children on alien worlds would learn of Earth's power, of the blue planet that had risen against the greatest threat in the galaxy. Even among former enemies, there were grudging respect and careful admiration. The Zerithians, humbled by their defeat, recognized the brilliance of their adversaries. They had built centuries of preparation only to see it crumble in seconds, and they understood a harsh truth. They had underestimated humanity, and that error had cost them dearly. Elena's voice echoed across the bridge of the Aegis. "We do not seek fear for the sake of fear. We do not conquer for pride alone. We fight to protect, to endure, to ensure that humanity survives and thrives. Let the galaxy learn this lesson. Humans are strong, but our true strength lies in our spirit, our unity, and our courage." Her words were not just for her crew. They were a message to the galaxy itself. From distant planets, sensors recorded the activity. Reports transmitted the battle's results, and every civilization that observed learned something profound. Humanity was no longer a species to ignore. They had awakened a galaxy to a new reality, one where courage, intelligence, and resilience could overturn even the mightiest of odds. And as the smoke from the shattered fleet slowly drifted through the void, the stars seemed to bear witness. Light reflected on the fragments of destroyed ships, glimmering like tiny reminders of what humans had achieved. A message echoed quietly through space. "Underestimate humanity at your own peril." "Captain," Morales turned to her crew, a quiet pride in her eyes. "Today we have defended our home. Tomorrow we continue to rise. Humanity has shown the galaxy what we are capable of. Let them fear, let them respect, but above all, let them remember the spirit that drives us forward." The crew nodded, understanding the weight of her words. Humanity had survived the impossible. Humanity had struck down the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced. And the echoes of fear, respect, and awe would ripple across the stars for generations to come. Above Earth, the planet itself seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging the courage and resilience of the species that called it home. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humans were awake, humans were strong, and humans would endure. The remnants of the Zerithian fleet drifted silently through space, burning slowly under distant suns. The mighty ships that had once dominated entire star systems were now reduced to fragments, a testament to the force that humanity had unleashed in defense of its home. Across the galaxy, civilizations paused to absorb what had happened. Some whispered in fear, others in awe, but all understood one unshakable truth. Humanity was no longer a species to be ignored. Captain Elena Morales stood on the bridge of the Aegis, her eyes scanning the void where destruction and victory met. Around her, her crew moved quietly, repairing minor damage, recalibrating systems, and sharing the silent pride of survival and triumph. There was no cheering. There was no celebration. They had witnessed power, loss, and the fragility of even the greatest civilizations. "This is incredible," Lieutenant Rao whispered, staring at the data feeds. "The galaxy. Everyone is watching us now. Even systems that never thought to care about Earth, they know." Elena nodded. "Yes, and they will remember. Humanity has proven that we will defend what is ours, that we do not cower in the face of impossible odds. But this is only the beginning. Strength is not measured by destruction alone. True strength is in how we carry it forward." Across distant galaxies, news spread like a tidal wave. Alliances shifted as races who had ignored Earth for centuries reconsidered their assumptions. Some extended tentative offers of cooperation, others prepared cautiously, wary of humanity's potential. Every major civilization understood a simple truth: the small blue planet was no longer a bystander. Humanity had arrived. On Earth, people watched the skies in wonder. Across every continent, satellites transmitted images of the aftermath, of fires in the void, of strange alien wreckage floating in orbit. Children asked questions no one had imagined asking years ago. Could humans destroy fleets like that? Again? Are there more aliens coming? Teachers and scientists answered carefully, understanding that these events had changed the very perception of their species. Humans were no longer small. Humans were no longer powerless. Humans were, quite literally, feared and respected across the stars. In the quiet of space, Elena spoke to her crew. "What we have done here will be remembered forever. But remember, we fight not to rule the galaxy, not to conquer, but to survive, to protect, to ensure the future of our species. Humanity's power is a responsibility, not a weapon of pride. Let the galaxy see that distinction clearly." Her words settled over the crew, a reminder of the balance between strength and morality. They had witnessed history. They had changed the galaxy. But the true measure of humanity was not in the destruction of an enemy. It was in the restraint, in the courage, and in the wisdom to wield their power with care. In faraway systems, historians began to record the events. Books, databases, and holographic archives marked the day humanity destroyed the greatest fleet in galactic history in mere seconds. Scholars debated how such a small species could accomplish what the Zerithians had spent centuries preparing for. They spoke of ingenuity, courage, and the human spirit. They studied the unity and intelligence of a species that had long been underestimated. Even among former enemies, respect emerged. Zerithian survivors, those who had escaped, reported to other systems not with anger, but with fear and admiration. They recounted the brilliance of human strategy, the precision of their attacks, and the resilience that no fleet could match. They had learned, the hard way, never to underestimate Earth again. Elena watched as the galaxy reacted to humanity's actions. Some sought peace, some prepared defenses, but all were forced to acknowledge one truth. Humans had changed the rules of the universe simply by surviving, by rising against impossible odds, and by proving that courage and intelligence could outweigh centuries of preparation and pride. "Captain," Lieutenant Rao said quietly, "do you think the galaxy will ever truly accept us?" Elena smiled softly, her gaze fixed on the stars. "Acceptance is not what matters. Respect, understanding, and caution, those are earned. And we have begun that journey. Humanity has proven itself. The galaxy will remember this day. They will remember our courage. They will remember our strength. And perhaps most importantly, they will remember that humans cannot be underestimated. Across Earth, children grew up learning about this moment. Teachers told stories of courage and unity, of how humans faced a threat far beyond their size and capabilities and survived with honor. Scientists and engineers continued to innovate, inspired by the knowledge that their ingenuity had saved not only Earth, but changed the balance of power across countless star systems. In the deep void of space, the Aegis and its fleet moved carefully, leaving behind the debris of the shattered Zerithian armada. Humanity had proven its power in a matter of seconds, yet it had shown restraint. The galaxy watched, fearful yet in awe, as Earth signaled that its strength was not for conquest, but for defense and survival. Elena turned to her crew one final time, her eyes reflecting the fires of distant wreckage. "Remember this," she said softly. "What we have done today will echo through the stars for centuries. Humanity is awake, humanity is strong, and humanity will endure. Let the galaxy never forget it." As the stars stretched infinitely ahead, humanity's story had changed forever. From a quiet, underestimated planet, humans had risen, not with arrogance but with intelligence, courage, and an unbreakable spirit. The galaxy would remember Earth. It would remember the day centuries of alien fleet building were destroyed, in seconds by a species that refused to be ignored. And somewhere in the hearts of every human watching the stars, there was a quiet understanding. This was only the beginning. The universe had been awakened to their power, their courage, and their spirit. And humanity would continue to rise, forging a future where their place among the stars was no longer questioned, where their strength, intelligence, and heart defined them in every corner of the galaxy. The fires of the shattered fleet slowly faded, leaving only the stars. But the memory of humanity's triumph burned brightly, a beacon for all time, small in size, yes, but limitless in spirit. For centuries, the Zerithians had ruled the galaxy with pride and precision. They were a race obsessed with power, cunning, and control. Every generation of Zerithian leaders believed in the same goal, to dominate every star system, to make the galaxy bow to their fleet. And so, they built. They built massive warships, enormous carriers and weapons so powerful that even nearby stars would tremble at their testing. Each ship was crafted with care, reinforced with alloys unknown to other civilizations, and armed with devastating energy cannons that could tear planets apart. The construction of their armada was not rushed. It was a slow, careful process that lasted hundreds of years. Every vessel carried a story of patience, skill, and ambition. They trained their pilots from birth, creating warriors who could fight without fear or the aftermath of the battle left the void of space littered with shattered ships, flickering debris and glowing trails of molten metal. The Zerithian fleet, once a symbol of unstoppable power, floated broken and silent. For Captain Elena Morales and her crew, the victory was overwhelming, yet it carried a weight far heavier than triumph. They had defended Earth and shown the galaxy their strength, but victory always came with responsibility. Elena walked the corridors of the Aegis, watching her crew quietly inspect systems and repair minor damage. Their faces were tired, yet full of pride. The tension of battle still lingered in the air, a mix of adrenaline and relief. She paused to watch a young officer, barely 20, adjusting a console, eyes bright but trembling. "You did well," Elena said softly. The officer looked up, startled, then nodded, a shy smile breaking through. "We all did, Captain," he replied. "We protected Earth." Elena's heart swelled with a mixture of pride and sorrow. So many lives had been lost, even among the enemy. Humanity had fought fiercely, but the cost of survival was never free of consequence. She understood that their victory, while glorious, carried echoes across the galaxy that would be felt for generations. "Captain," Lieutenant Rao spoke, his voice carrying the weight of contemplation. "The remnants of the Zerithians, they are scattered, Some will survive, some will flee. What now? Elena turned toward him, her eyes firm and resolute. We do not hunt the weak for vengeance. Humanity's strength is not measured by the destruction we can cause, but by the justice, mercy, and wisdom we show afterward. We defend, but we do not destroy without reason. Let the galaxy see that we are powerful, yes, but also honorable. Her words were not just guidance. They were a promise. Humanity would rise, but not as conquerors. They would rise as a species, capable of greatness, compassion, and understanding, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Across Earth, diplomats, scientists, and leaders gathered to assess the new reality. Alien representatives who had once ignored Earth now approached with cautious curiosity. Some sent messages of peace, others inquiries, and a few of fear. Humanity had proven that they could survive against the mightiest force, and now every civilization knew they could not be dismissed. Elena returned to the bridge and gazed at the remnants of the battle. Fires glowed faintly in the distance, casting light on twisted metal drifting through the darkness. She felt the sorrow of what had been lost, even among their enemies. Every battle took lives, and even in victory, the weight of those losses was heavy. We must prepare, she said quietly to her crew. Not for revenge, not for pride, but for the future. Humanity is awake now. The galaxy knows we exist, and some will try to challenge us again. We must be ready, and we must remain united. The crew nodded, understanding the unspoken truth. Humanity had risen in strength, but power came with responsibility. They had shown courage, strategy, and unmatched determination, yet the galaxy was vast and other civilizations might seek to test them. Still, they would face it together, as humans always had. In the silence of space, Elena considered the lesson humanity had just taught the universe. They had faced a fleet built over centuries, a fleet that had never known defeat, and they had prevailed in seconds. Yet victory had not come from arrogance or brute force alone. It had come from preparation, intelligence, courage, and unity. Humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and relentless when defending what they cherished. Back on Earth, civilians celebrated quietly but with awe. Streets were filled with people who had once feared alien threats, now filled with hope and pride. Children learned that their planet had faced the galaxy's greatest fleet and survived. Teachers spoke of courage, of unity, and of the indomitable human spirit. Scientists reflected on the ingenuity and wisdom that had allowed Earth to defend itself. Humanity had become more than a species. It had become a story of survival, hope, and strength. Elena gazed at the stars, where smoke and fire from the shattered fleet slowly faded. We have shown them who we are, she said to herself, but this is only the beginning. The galaxy will remember Earth. They will fear us, yes, but they will also respect us. And we will prove that our power is not for destruction alone, but for protection, for growth, and for the survival of all that we love. As the crew of the Aegis worked quietly, preparing for what might come next, the galaxy around them began to shift. Alliances formed, old enemies reconsidered their strategies, and civilizations that had ignored humanity suddenly recognized a new truth. Earth was no longer a small, insignificant planet. Humans were a force, unbroken and unbowed, capable of facing the greatest challenges. Captain Morales stood at the bridge's viewport looking at the stars beyond. She felt both pride and humility. Humanity had proven its power, but they had also proven their honor. The galaxy had been forced to acknowledge them, yet the true test of humanity was not in the battle they had just fought. It was in how they chose to use their newfound recognition and respect. In that quiet moment, a single thought echoed in her mind. Humanity would endure, not through fear, not through conquest, but through courage, unity, and wisdom. They had survived, they had risen, and they had awakened a galaxy that had long overlooked them. And in that awakening lay the promise of something greater, an era in which humans would shape the stars not only with their power, but with their heart. The war may have been won in space, but humanity's true victory was in what they had proven, to themselves, that they were not just survivors. They were creators, defenders, and dreamers. They were a species capable of rising from the smallest beginnings to stand among the stars, and nothing could ever make them bow again. The galaxy was changing. From the outer edges of known space to the bustling trade hubs near Sol, the whispers spread like wildfire. Earth, they said. Humans. The name, once dismissed as insignificant, now carried weight, awe, and fear. Every race that had ignored the blue planet now recalculated, reconsidered, and reevaluated their place in the universe. Captain Elena Morales watched the reports come in from sensors and communications networks aboard the Aegis. Alien fleets, that had once been confident, brimming with arrogance, now approached cautiously, some in retreat, others hesitantly requesting parley. Entire civilizations that had relied on dismissing Earth as primitive now shook in disbelief. The humans had struck a fleet built over centuries, obliterated it in seconds, and survived to tell the tale. On the bridge, her crew moved with quiet purpose. The hum of energy cores and the soft blinking of consoles reminded them that their world had changed forever. Lieutenant Rao leaned over a display reading incoming transmissions. Captain, every major system is monitoring us. They're talking about alliances, defense pacts. Some even suggest waiting for humanity's next move before acting. Elena nodded slowly. Let them watch. Let them fear, yes, but let them also learn. We do not seek war unnecessarily. We do not strike without reason. Our actions speak louder than threats ever could. Humanity does not destroy out of cruelty. We act out of survival, out of protection, out of justice. Even as they moved through the debris of the shattered Zarithian fleet, the message was clear. Earth was no longer a quiet planet. Humans had awakened, and their presence was impossible to ignore. Across distant galaxies, scholars and leaders debated the implications. The humans were small, yes, but they had intelligence, ingenuity, and a determination unmatched by any other species. Their fight had not been about conquest. It had been about survival. And in surviving, they had rewritten the rules of power in the galaxy. Some alien races were inspired, secretly sending messages of peace, asking for alliances and guidance. Others trembled in fear, preparing their own fleets in case humanity struck again. The echoes of Earth's victory spread faster than light, a warning and a lesson in one. Humanity's reach had not yet expanded beyond its solar system, but its influence now stretched across every system that had witnessed the defeat of the Zarithians. Back on Earth, civilians watched the stars as the news arrived. Scientists marveled at the strategy and technology that had allowed humans to triumph. Families hugged, knowing their planet had survived a threat that no one else had thought possible. Children learned that they were part of a species capable of greatness, resilience, and courage. Humanity's story was changing. From being small and underestimated, it now became a symbol of hope and unstoppable spirit. On the Aegis, Elena stood at the viewport, looking out at the remnants of the battle. Fires from destroyed Zarithian ships glowed faintly in the distance, a silent reminder of the scale of what had occurred. And yet, amidst the wreckage, she felt a quiet, unshakable hope. Humanity had risen, humanity had defended its home, and humanity had proven, not with arrogance but with skill, courage, and restraint, that it belonged among the stars. Captain, Lieutenant Rao spoke softly. We are hearing reports that some Zarithian survivors are surrendering to other races. They speak of humans with fear and awe. It's unprecedented. Elena nodded. Good. Let them see that even their strongest fleet, built over centuries, could be destroyed by a species they underestimated. Let this be a lesson. The galaxy will think twice before judging humanity again. In distant star systems, fear mingled with respect. Some civilizations debated launching preemptive attacks, but most paused,